it's really a pleasure to be part of this panel with my colleagues here. I think you're absolutely right. Traditionally, housing is viewed as an economic asset, as a supply issue, as, whether it's commercially viable or not. And what that means is that investments tend to have only flowed towards high-income housing options. And as a result, what we see is that displaced communities, smaller towns, informal settlements, these are all left behind. And actually, as other panelists have been saying, we need to look at housing not just as an economic asset, we need to look at it in terms of its social function. And the social functions are very clear. As has been said so nicely, housing provides access to all sorts of opportunities, to health, to jobs, to services. Housing also builds social cohesion and builds trust in your neighborhood, in your community, but also in local institutions. I think about an example from Colombia, a country that's been through decades of conflict, where UNDP, through this trust fund, was able to work with 170 municipalities, and we weren't just working on housing as a delivery issue. The housing was building participatory planning, it was building trust again between communities and between people and local authorities. So it's about access, it's about trust and social cohesion, but it's also about building resilience to crisis. No one is immune from crisis and shocks anymore, whether it's climate, whether it's displacement, whether it's economic shocks. The way housing is done really shapes a town or city's ability to be resilient and people's ability to be resilient to that crisis. So we don't see, and I think other colleagues have said, housing isn't a standalone issue, it's a sustainable development issue. And for that, we need to look at it in an integrated way and see how housing links to a whole bunch of other issues. It's a governance issue. It's a finance issue. We have colleagues from a delegation in Morocco and in Marrakesh, for example. We really see housing as part of a Greening the City initiative, where we invest in low carbon strategies, where we invest in mobility, where we invest in access. And through that initiative with the Global Environment Facility, the government has actually come in. We've been able to leverage that donor money to bring in other sources of financing, whether it be from the private sector or from the government in this case. So housing is very much a governance issue, a finance issue, a gender issue, as was said. We see some of the best initiatives in transforming housing and the lives in people's communities when they're led by women. So I think that the Mentimeter was interesting because it said social. People thought predominantly it's a social issue. What I would like to see is for investors, banks, to see it as an investment too, but not only in that high income way of looking at it, but to invest in sustainable housing and to bring that investment and that private sector money into sustainable housing, not just the top layer of it.
Thank you very much, Francine. I think it's very interesting. Professor Raul will speak